2024 was a pretty busy year for all of us. Not just for those of us on the cigar smoking and reviewing side of the spectrum, but the guys who make the smokes that we adore. One of the people that was busier than most was Warp Cigars founder Kyle Gellis. Not only did he start his own spin-off line, Gellis Family Cigars, this year, but he also was able to finally release a full production line of a cigar that he has been working on for quite some time that has not one, but two binders. Just take a gander at this gorgeous specimen for a moment, would ya? This is Isla del Cocodrilo from Warp Cigars, and that means Isle of the Crocodile. Not only is this blend named after the shape for the island of Cuba and reference its old nickname, but it's also a tip of the hat to the Cuban crocodile, which is a rare species, but definitely still one that is in existence. Produced down in the Dominican Republic, and available in, well, two vitolas, with the Toro at 6 inches long and 52 ring gauge in my hand, being the one that we stock. This smoke has been a bit of a problematic project for Gellis and his Warp team. Not only did it take quite some time for them to get the correct wrapper for this one, but the addition of a double binder also proved to be a problem. But eventually they got it, and what you have now is an Habano Deflorada wrapper from Ecuador on the outside, an obscure strain to say the least. The binder side of things is an Habano 2000 from Ecuador, as well as an Arapiraca binder from Brazil for a little earthiness. Now, filler is all Nicaraguan and undisclosed, which is okay, and the smoke itself feels fantastic. It also looks great, is silky soft to the touch, and doesn't have much of a blemish anywhere outside of a little bit of a raised vein right here. I also really dig the band with the gold emblazoned cocodrilos on each side. And I think that all in all, Gellis just did a bang-up job with producing this smoke. Not only is the barrel of this cigar, and actually every other square centimeter of it, very well constructed and borderline too tight feeling, but it's also somewhat of a shiny specimen. Not super oily, but just a nice sheen to the outside wrapper portion of the smoke. The seams are near perfect and almost invisible to the naked eye, and the aromatics along the wrapper are this light, bright, refreshing aromatic. Outside of obviously being tobacco, it smells like light leather, a little bit of sandalwood, and some sweet pine resin. There could be a little bit of hay thrown in, but there's only a touch of it. And the foot is also something that's a bit on the milder end. Yeah, it's a light sweetness that comes out of the foot. And I note that it's got a sweet cedar to it that's very light as well. And there's a good bit of dried pineapple and this tropical fruity punch-like aromatic to it that isn't on the sweet side, but is notable. Let's get to it, shall we? Now, this cigar is marketed as a medium, and once you get a cut and a cold pull off it, you can see precisely why. It has some baking spice to it and a dark soil-like taste, presumably from the Arapiraca binder, but the sweetness of the tobacco is really where the star of the show is, and it mellows out a lot of the spice notes. The cold draws on this cigar are much darker than the wrapper will have you believe. It's also a very delicate wrapper, so when you cut it, take care because they are prone to flaking and cracking, which I've found the hard way. Mr. Crocodile, tick-tock, 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 tick-tock. Prime stogie smoking weather. Lovely. Cinnamon and salt may come to mind once you get the cigar fully underway. This is followed with some dry whole grain toast, no butter whatsoever, no honey either, along with some dried grass and a milder, slightly sweet cedar aftertaste. It's somewhat earthy, and there is an nice retrohale that comes with it that's very clean and a little more cedar oriented. But the smoke itself tends to dry out the palate a good bit and keeps you wanting to come back for more in the hopes of finding something honey-like. Altogether, a good start with a great draw, beautiful burn, and a very clean aftertaste with zero spice whatsoever. Sweeter, a little bit darker, chewier, and a bit spicier upon retrohale. The first third is really good, and a notable uptick from the mild to medium to just a flat-out medium strength and bodied cigar. Tastes become more cedar forward as well as the aromatics, and with them comes a star anise and clove spice aromatic and flavor. This is complemented by a smoky mesquite-like taste that isn't too intense but is notable, especially post exhale. I pick it up somewhat on the retrohale, but more upon the palate, surprisingly enough. And with this clean, smoky, woody aftertaste comes a finish that gets longer as it goes. One other note is that when I purposely discarded my ash just a moment ago, it revealed a near perfect cone underneath. So a great burner thus far, and that lets you know that those double binders aren't just there for flavor and aromatics, but they are keeping this shit together. As the second third hits its stride, I detect a light leather note and more cedar than before. It's a subtle transition that likes to leave you with a lush, rich, sweet tobacco aftertaste more than anything else. This is accompanied still with some cinnamon, which is more of a cinnamon spice heat intensity than flavor profile half the time, and the finish is somewhat dry, even though there's sweetness up front. This results in a very nice retrohale, and with smoke production increasing with each passing puff, the final third is looking to be magnificent. As for the final third of this blend, I detect the return of mesquite, and that produces a little bit of a charry taste, which could be associated with the one touch-up that I have had to do to the smoke just a few minutes prior. There's also a combination of soil and clay, earthy, loamy, rich dankness to the cigar. It provides some body without being too heavy either though. There's also both white and black pepper right now to be detected, a little bit of flavor but more on the spice level side of things, and the leather and sweeter cedar side comes more on the retrohale, post-exhale of course. Parting puffs on this cigar, after a touch-up again, provide me a lot of flavors that I do enjoy in a medium strength cigar especially. Because it's a lighter smoke, you get some of these cereal grain tastes that aren't too heavy and add some doughy and bready flavors. There's also a cinnamon graham cracker crunch to the smoke that a lot of people like in a lighter cigar. So you've got that right now, and that's especially apparent when you retrohale it. There's also a mixture of different baking spices, with the star anise and clove aspect of it coming back to the forefront of the smoking experience. However, it's burning a little bit on the hot side right now, and I'm picking up on a nice little kick of nicotine as well. So this is a bit on the stouter end of medium for me as well right now, and that says a lot because I can smoke some pretty damn strong cigars. Still, the flavor profiles are very clean, and outside of those two touch-ups that I've had to do, the smoke itself and the way it's burned has been pretty damn good. Smoke production has also increased a ton as it goes, and that makes for a great smoking experience for me. This earns Isla del Cocodrilo a 4.4 out of 5 stars in my little journal. It's bright and refreshing at times, dark and soil-centric the next, and very interesting in its delivery of all of the above. The only downsides that I've had with the cigar are the touch-ups that were required, as well as it burning hot, and that little kick of nicotine toward the end could turn some people off, especially since it's only increasing as it goes. This is another one of those blends that I would suggest picking up a 5-pack of, smoking 1 or 2 of, and then setting the other 3 or so down for 6 to 8 months, and then firing them up in the springtime or so, and seeing what you think. I personally get the feeling that it's just gonna mellow the smoke out all the more and provide more cedar undertones, especially if you use a claro humidor, because we pack a ton of Spanish cedar into our humidors. Yeah, very nice retro. Anyway, shameless claro humidor plug out of the way. I'm gonna get some finishing photos and I'll catch you all in the next review. Thanks for joining me next to one of the largest gates in this part of Japan on this autumn afternoon. Cheers.